Thank you for coming on this beautiful day that our grass has been naturally watered by heaven himself. It is good to have you share with us in the City Council forum. We are excited that you are present tonight. My name is Melvin Mariner. I'm the president of the Martin Luther King Leadership Junior Steering Committee in the City of Portsmouth, Virginia. On behalf of all of our officers and members, I want to welcome you to our forum tonight. Hopefully this will be a time that our potential candidates will inform you on why we should not only vote, but vote for them. And so we encourage you to listen, to write down your notes, and pass them to our ushers who are here as well. But on behalf of the MLK Leadership Steering Committee, thank you for coming on this Tuesday night to share with us the progress of our city. For we know that Portsmouth has a historical, great history. We know that we've done some great things. We also know that we've overcome some hurdles. And we also know that there are some hurdles that we still must overcome. And so I believe that ideals of Martin Luther King Jr. himself, that we who are alive recognize the power of synergy or unity. And it doesn't matter about our color in moments of life where our race and color always has its place, that all of us are God's creatures. We have a place and we have opportunity to share our gifts and our talent with the world. So on behalf, again, of all of our leaders, we thank you for being here. I look forward to sharing with you in a few more moments. I'm going to bring forward, let me do this first of all. Let me ask all clergy to please stand. If you're here, the clergy, please stand for a moment that we might recognize you. All of our elected officials, will you please stand? Civic League presidents, your contributions are so great. Will you please stand? Any Civic League presidents here? Let us have the invocation from Reverend Gregory Thomas, and pastor of the First Baptist Elm Avenue. He will come now and give us our invocation, followed by the introduction of our moderator by Ms. Angela Allen.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, once again you allowed us to come together. We're so thankful for bringing us here safe and sound and have placed us in this building. We thank you for the Bishop and St. Mark Church family for allowing us to be here, that we can come together to seek you where you may be found, draw to you while you're near. And since you are near, God, we ask that you control this from the beginning to the end. God, we ask that you bless those who will participate and bless we who will hear, that we will come together, and as we make decisions and choices, the truth will set us free. We love you and we thank you. Thank you personally, God, for watching over our homes and our family while we're here, and continue to bless them individually and collectively. We pray. Amen. 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 And amen. Amen.
Good evening. Good evening. Barbara Hamley is the executive producer and host of WHRO's Another View, a weekly radio talking program where we discuss today's issues from an African American perspective. Most of Barbara's career has been spent in television, working in cities such as Norfolk, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. Barbara has served on numerous boards, including the Hampton Roads Planning Commission and Board of Directors for Bon Secours Hampton Roads. Barbara is also a member of Bennett College Alumni Association. Barbara has been recognized for her work in the community, such as being awarded the Volunteer of the Year Award from the Urban League of Hampton Roads and the 2010 Women of the Year Awards from the YWCA of Southampton Roads. Barbara is married to Maxie Lee, has 2 daughters and 1 granddaughter. Please welcome our moderator for this evening, Ms. Barbara Hamley.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, come on, y'all can have a little more enthusiasm. Thank you so much for being here this evening, and thank you for allowing me to serve once again as moderator for a discussion about the running of the city of Portsmouth. So I appreciate that. It is my honor and it is my pleasure to serve as your moderator this evening. There are 3 council seats up for election. We will hear from 5 of the 6 candidates vying for your vote. Our forum begins with a 3-minute statement from each candidate where they will introduce themselves and their platforms. Following that, we will ask candidates questions from you, our audience. So each of you should have an index card in your chair. If you don't, please raise your hand and we'll get you one. And if you would start thinking of your questions and writing them down as early as possible, that would be great. Each candidate, after they answer your questions, oh, by the way, when you write down your questions, please write it very legibly and clearly so these over 40 eyes can read it. Thank you, appreciate that. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer each question, and then we'll end the forum with a 2-minute closing statement from each candidate. Our timekeeper this evening is Ms. Erin Carter. And Erin, when you show the candidates the cards, we will give you a 45-second notice, then a 30-second notice, and when the red card goes up, you are out of time. Okay, so we want to be respectful of each other's time. We will all be courteous, respectful, and attentive to all candidates. Booing or catcalling will not be tolerated. Please give each candidate your undivided attention. And now it's time for opening statements from our candidates. They will answer in alphabetical order, starting with Vice Mayor and incumbent Paige Cherry.
Good evening. First, I want to thank Dr. Mariner and the MLK Steering Committee for hosting this event this evening. I want to thank all of you for attending. And I want to thank my lovely wife, Whitley, and my daughter, Felicia, and my campaign manager, all for escorting me here this evening. You know, in the last 4 years, we've had 3 elections, 2 city managers, 2 city attorneys, 2 city assessors. In one of the worst economic times this country and the world has ever seen. Yet, the Council of Portsmouth still made progress. You know, we ran before, we talked about economic development, we've done it, and we're still doing it. You know, we have the businesses come to town. We have the Program Marketplace coming, that's going to bring a TJ Maxx, Coble, sporting goods store, sit-down restaurants. You know, we have CVS's all over town now, Harris Teeter's, Chick-fil-A, and the list goes on. We talked about affordable housing. We have apartments going on in Crawford, London, Washington County. Affordable housing being built in Port Norfolk and Craddock. We have all the places that the Housing Authority now manages for the city. We took care of our employees last 2 years in a row. We've given 3% raises for a total of 6% in the last 2 years. No other city in South Florida has done that. We promised to support education, and we've done that. Last year we had what was called, I'm going to call it Sherry Simmons Amendment, which gave an extra $1.3 billion to our school system. This year, in the last 3 months, actually $9.4 million to ensure that our kids have everything they need to succeed. That new superintendent comes to town, not have to worry about finances as the first thing he has to deal with. We promised to our seniors and our retirees who had first with the Social Security offset. We got rid of the offset because it cost many of them to live in poverty. If they turn 65, their retirement checks were reduced by the amount of their retirement plan, their amount of their Social Security check. We took care of that. So we met our commitment to education, we met our commitment to the community, we met our commitment to economic development, we met our commitment to our personnel. But there's still much work to be done. We need to keep people on council who understand the process, who work the process, and who can keep the progress going. So that's why I'm asking you on November 4th to
keep me as a member of the Portsmouth City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cherry. The next person is Mr. Nathan J. Clark.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Clark. My goals for tonight are first to share my background and my views as far as the City of Portsmouth goes, and also to be considered for the open and available endorsement from the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee. I just want to now give you a little bit about my background. For everybody, a lot of people don't know me here. I'm born and raised here in the City of Portsmouth. I grew up here. I attended Portsmouth Public Schools. I graduated from IC Northam High School. Shortly after graduating from IC Northam High School, I began working for the City of Portsmouth. I became a deputy sheriff here in Portsmouth at the age of 18. In addition to that, I've also been a police officer and a firefighter here for the City of Portsmouth. I got my 20 years with the city from all three departments, and at that point I was able to retire. I currently work for the Virginia Marine Police state office. A lot of people aren't familiar with it, but I'm still a police officer, and also the City of Portsmouth is still in my jurisdiction, so I've had 26 years now of public safety, and the majority of that has been here in the City of Portsmouth. In addition to that, I spent time as a combat medic with the Virginia Army National Guard, so I have served city, state, and the federal government as well. Also, I hold an Administration of Justice degree. I'd like to utilize my training and experience to promote public safety, education, and economic development here for the City of Portsmouth. In the area of public safety, which includes dispatchers, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and deputy sheriffs, it's paramount that they have the best training and equipment available to them. When a citizen dials 911, whether it's for a criminal act or for a medical emergency or fire or any type of emergency situation, they're expecting a quick response by our emergency professionals to be well-trained and well-equipped to handle whatever emergency that the citizen has. In the area of education, I believe it's paramount that the children and the educators feel safe within the schools to accomplish the goal of educating the children. Part of that includes school resource officers. During my career, I also spent 4 years as a school resource officer, and I have spent time on the SWAT team here in the city, so I'm very familiar with school safety. In addition, I think that every child that would like to attend college should be afforded that opportunity, but I think they should also have courses to prepare students to join the workforce as there were when I attended Northam High School. Economic development, I believe, is predicated on public safety and education. Everybody would like to live and work where they feel safe and children can receive quality education. In conclusion, that's my 3 topics: is public safety, education, and economic development. This time, I'd like to say thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Incumbent William E. Bill Moody, Jr.
Good evening. I too would like to thank the steering committee for having us here tonight. This glass of water, to some is half empty, to some is half full. I'm a half full type person. I look at our city, I see some good things happening. We've accomplished a lot. I'm not going to backpedal on what we've accomplished. I'm all about, the reason I'm running is I want to continue to work to make this glass even more full, and hopefully it could even run over, which would be good. Specifically, I want to ensure that we do by our 100% disabled veterans in this city what Louise Lucas and the General Assembly worked hard to get in our state code, and that's to allow our veterans, 100% disabled veterans, 1 car where they don't pay car tax. Also, we have not done enough for the seniors in this city. I want to work with council and management to see once a citizen reaches 80 years old that they get some sort of break, and a break without having to bare your soul and open your bank account and go through your jury box to show that you don't have any money. It's high time that we do that. I've been about building retail. Some of you may remember when I ran in 1998, I ran on the platform, let's do something with a closed, decrepit mid-city. You look at that area today, it's booming. More is coming. Same way with Old Tower Mall. Bill Moody supported retail, bringing retail back to the city, but we're not there yet. How many of you tonight, how many men bought a suit of clothes in Portsmouth? How many women bought shoes or a dress in Portsmouth? If I would ask by a show of hands, probably not many of you would raise your hand. That's what I'm about, because those tax dollars from retail business will allow us to do what we should be doing with our schools, and that's putting money into them. We should be doing what we need to be doing with our children, and that's building better rec centers, more rec centers. We have a master plan. We need to implement it. So I'm going to continue to work for those things, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to allow us to have the money to do what we need to do, and by doing the right thing as elected officials for our citizens. Thank you for being here. I would appreciate your vote on November the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Moody. Ms. Donna Biggs-Sy.
Good evening.
Can you pull that microphone close to your voice?
Good evening. I came to Portsmouth in 1977 to work at Maryview Hospital after I graduated from Overseas Hospital in Suffolk. I had 3 children that went to Manor High School, and they graduated. 2 of them went into the military after they graduated, and 2 of them live in Norfolk. One of them live in Portsmouth, but they won't live in Norfolk. But I have 3 issues on my platform, and one is communication. Communication is so important for relationships, not only in the family, but also in our community and with our legislators. And I find that we need that in Portsmouth. The other thing, my platform is safety, and safety, it can encompass every avenue of a person's life. And the 4th one is education. I'm a lifelong learner. I started my education in school, but then getting my college education has been a struggle. Like many people, the money was not there, so my master's degree in restorative practices in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I had a scholarship because they were trying to get accredited. So that's how I got my master's degree. And God wanted me to come back here and do what I'm doing. So I came back here, and my education has helped me be able to get involved in government. And I'm here for the people. I have people come to me all the time to solve problems. And so, because I've been involved, I can go to the person that can help them. So my platform is for the people. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Sy. Dr. Mark M. Whitaker.
First, I'd like to give honor to God, being that we are here at St. Mark Missionary Baptist Church, to the esteemed pastor, Bishop Curtis Edmonds, for allowing us to be here this evening, for the president of this MLK committee, Dr. Mariner, and to all of the clergy that's present, and to all of you that have come here tonight because of your interest in the community. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am perplexed at this time because as we are here this evening at a gathering that is being led by a group called Martin Luther King Steering Committee, and at the same time our country is in turmoil over issues that have been plaguing this nation for centuries. And as we look at those conditions in Ferguson, Missouri, and as we stand here and sit here this evening, at the MLK committee. It's interesting that the issues that we are seeing nationwide is because of the fact that leadership has not addressed the concerns of the community. You have re-elected me to the school board since 2002, when I was the youngest person at that time ever elected. You returned me to the school board because of the job that I was doing. I am as committed to doing what I did on the school board as I would be on city council, given that there are some pertinent issues that I'm interested in hearing tonight as it relates to fully funding our school system. When it comes to economic development, when we talk about all of these businesses that we brought into the city, my interest is also do we have full participation in these businesses, in contracting, and then also neighborhood enhancement as we look to provide facilities for our residents, for our youth in a city that has a high poverty level. And so I'm committed to those goals and committed to standing as you have seen me stand for the past 12 years on the school board.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. Those are opening statements. Now we will go into questions. Each of you will answer the same question. You'll each have 2 minutes. The first question, I spent a great deal of time last night on Google and on Facebook and looking through Twitter and so forth, looking specifically for your individual platforms, and I had a hard time finding them. So I'm wondering how you're letting the people of Portsmouth know what differentiates you as candidates, number one, and then is this a more grassroots campaign this time as opposed to a media-driven campaign? And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Moody.
Thank you very much. It is early. It's not traditionally campaigns really getting high gear following Labor Day. And Bill Moody will say I'm probably a little guilty when it comes to social media. I've been more active in it recently than I ever have. With that said, I can't say that I get on Facebook every day. Social media certainly has its place. I've been drawn into it, admittedly, kicking and screaming. I do like it. It does take time to sit in front of it, but I'm a little old-fashioned in this respect. I like to talk to people. I can see your reaction. I can read your body language. I like to press the flesh. I like to hear how you're doing, how's the family, what you've been up to, that sort of thing. And I like to hear feedback. I hear some great stuff, things that we're doing good, and yes, I hear things that we're doing not so good. I had a call from a gentleman who will remain anonymous today. Surprisingly, he said, Mr. Moody, he said, the campaign signs at the end of Frederick Boulevard by the cemetery, I feel they're disrespecting the folks that are buried there, and one of them is my mom. And gentleman's from Craddock. We had a good conversation. I hung up, slept on it, called my sign fellow, and I said, let's remove that sign. I said, we got enough signs. If one person feels that way, I'm going to react. And you wouldn't necessarily get that kind of feedback on social media. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker. Same question.
If I understood your question correctly, it dealt with searching for our platform and also if we have a grassroots perspective. My platform has been consistent. I think that sometimes we can get caught up in just announcing our platforms, and then once we get in these seats, our platforms tend to shift. I think that it is the value that the person brings to the position, and I think that it has been clear over these past 12 years, and even prior to that, because of issues and how I stood on issues even as a student athlete, that people understand the value that I bring. That is, I'm very interested in doing the right thing. And when you have that basis, then as issues come up, then you will always search for the truth, and therefore you will make the correct decisions that may not necessarily reflect the platform, but it reflects the right thing to do. I've always tried to be grassroots as far as being one that is approachable, one who you know where I am. I'm either at the Bethel Baptist Church, I'm at home, or I'm at Hampton University. And so persons know where to find me, and they know how to contact me, and they do. And they have no problems with it from the upper round to the lower round. So I'm very grassroots oriented because I haven't forgotten where I come from.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clark.
Yes, ma'am. I do have a Facebook page for my campaign, but I would feel mine is more of a grassroots. Since I'm a newcomer, obviously, to the campaign scene here in the city of Portsmouth, I haven't been out. I try to look at it as military, or when I was in the police department, boots on the ground. I think it's more important to be out at civic league meetings, in neighborhoods, walk around. I would like people to meet me face to face so I can answer their questions and they can learn more about me, my background, what I have done for this city over the past 20 plus years. So I have done more in that area, leaning towards grassroots as opposed to the media. I will use that as well. It is a good tool, but I think it is very important for me to get out. An example is an event like this tonight, to meet people and be able to speak in front of people that do not know who I am, to get my message across. So I would say yes, I'm more grassroots than social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Say? Ms. Sai, pardon me.
I'm a grassroots kind of person. Being raised on the farm, relationships were very important. Hard work and personal responsibility. So I had a Facebook page, and one of my classmates was always saying something opposite than what I was saying. So I said, well, I don't have the time for that. So I don't have a Facebook page, but other people I know have it, and that's fine with me. I do a lot of research. I like when I give people information, I want to be true, so I do a lot of research. I do a lot of emailing folks. I have civic leagues I email, and some of them are real kind. They don't tell me, they just go on and delete it, but that's okay. But I want to get people informed on what's going on in the community. So that's what I do. I use more emailing and meetings, but a lot of meetings outside of the city as well as the city. And I'll talk to you if you want to be talking, talk with.
Thank you. And Mr. Cherry.
Thank you. I have a Facebook page, but I must admit I'm not very social media savvy. I am working with a young school board candidate who's going to help me with that. Appreciate it for that. But you know, being incumbent, it counts. People know pretty much where you stand, what you've done. People know that I've helped bring business to this community. They know that I served 8 years on the Plan Commission, and I have co-authored the comprehensive plan. That's the roadmap for the city, and then I'm working the plan. They know that I led the effort to acquire 30 acres of land and trust the community for a recreation facility that's going to serve all of Portsmouth. They know that I made the motions to give this extra monies to the school board. They know that I'm a man of my word. When I give my word, you don't have to go back and second guess it. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. So I do want to get a little bit more savvy on social media because there are young voters out there who may not know. But the bulk of Portsmouth and the voters who come out religiously have hair that's starting to look like mine and might necessarily be media savvy. So I think it's important that we continue our grassroots efforts to get to them, to make sure they know that we're still out there working hard for them, and they know what we stand for.
Thank you very much. Our next question, economic vitality is critical to the success of any city, including Portsmouth. What needs to be done to continue to bring economic development to the city in spite of the tolls, which most see as a barrier? Mr. Clark, let's start with you.
Yes, economic development is very vital to any jurisdiction, especially ours, as we're overcoming some past where we did not have many retail establishments here in the city. One thing we have to fight and we have to fix this problem is a perception problem. Portsmouth has a bad reputation. When you talk to people from other jurisdictions, they'll tell me, well, I'm not going to Portsmouth, I'm scared to go to Portsmouth. And I have to sit there and tell them the real reality of how Portsmouth is. It's not the scary place that most people think that it is. We have overcome a lot over the past several years. The crime rate has gone down thanks to our police department, Commonwealth Attorney's Office, where we've had problems with gangs and stuff like this, but a lot of this has been eradicated and the crime is down compared to what it used to be. I believe it was 1995, one year we had 36 homicides, and I think we only have approximately 33 square miles in the city, so that was approximately 1 murder per square mile. Last year, I believe the number was 8. So crime has gone down a lot. We need to promote this and put out the good things. I'm tired of seeing articles about the bad things and the negative things in our city, so we need to promote all the good things and historical places, children's museum, and all these good qualities of our city. If we can promote that to other people, they will gladly come and visit our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Simon.
This is a real big issue that I've been facing for a while now after being at the work session and hearing where Virginia is compared to the United States, and then looking at Portsmouth too. I think one of the main problems in Portsmouth is communication. We have the port, and I'm trying to do some research on that and seeing how we can be better work as a team with the port to see how jobs and things can come into Portsmouth more. I see a lot of businesses leaving, and I think if we communicate and go out and look and see what the needs are in the community, it would really help, I think, the economic development process.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
We just have to continue with the track that we're on. As far as we do have to leverage the ports. Cities around us right now are making more money off the ports than Portsmouth and they have ports. Partly because they have the land masses to store the warehouses and all this, and we don't. We got to establish some partnerships. Partner with them. We're going to have the land for the warehouse, but we can get the corporate buildings. We can get the corporate headquarters in Portsmouth. The CEOs come. They have, but they won't come until we get our schools where we need to be. But they're contributing to make that happen. So with some partnerships we got to establish. And the tolls have had a drastic effect on this. But there are a lot of people who work at the shipyard, the Naval Hospital, Coast Guard base, and the federal building, who don't make a lot of money. And they're coming here from Norfolk and Virginia Beach every day paying tolls. Well, when the tolls go into full effect in 2017, they're looking for somewhere to live. So we've committed to making sure there's affordable housing here for them. Because they're ready to there now. If you have 4 kids, you're making $35,000, $40,000 a year, you got to pay that extra money every month to go to Tacoma, and look for someone living in Portsmouth. What that does for us increases our tax base. And what that does for us as well, when the businesses come here, we have more people to support them, tax base goes up, economic development goes up, we have more money to support our schools and neighborhoods.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, when you speak of economic vitality, I'm assuming that you mean that we want to have in place things that will enhance the economy of Portsmouth,
Yes.
The revenue stream. However, we can't limit that to just a pure economic definition. That is, when we think of economic development, we have to partner that with education. If we do not have a strong education system, then we will see that there will only be a handful of people that will benefit from any type of economic vitality definition that we put in place. We have to start seeing education as part of economic development, because as our children become more educated and education allows them to reach higher levels, higher incomes, they can invest, families will move into the city because of the education. Also, when we talk about economic vitality, we have to make it clear that we are talking about everyone participating. When we live in a country where 1% of the population controls something like 95% of the wealth, and then in a city like Portsmouth where we see a very small number of minorities getting contracts, we have to be very vocal and speak to that, and that's where it takes moral leadership to have courage to speak to those issues and also put in processes to address it. So I believe with a strong school base and making sure that there's a voice there and that persons are participating, that would elevate our economy.
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Thank you. Thank you. When companies look to relocate to a city, they do. They look at schools. They look at the quality of schools. They look at the crime rate. You know, as it stands now, I think 53% of our schools are accredited. We got to improve that. And I agree that schools are a part of economic development. So our teachers in that respect, our administrators in schools are part of that team. The other thing that's part of that team are cultural facilities. What is there to do in the city? Churches, we got the church part pretty well covered. But rec centers, where my kid's going to go play. The other thing is we have an economic development department, and we have a director of that economic development position is open now. To me, that person needs to be active. I've been in sales and marketing all my life, and customers, I don't wait for customers to come to me, I go to them. We need to use our comprehensive plan and look what citizens have said they want in a particular area. And by golly, we need to go seek out and make corporate calls to the headquarters, and we need to sell our city. We need to carry a delegation with us. We need to sell them on Portsmouth, and so we're in the hunt. And I'm confident if we take an aggressive approach, we can get our share of business. But until we get aggressive in that arena, I'm afraid we're going to miss out on a lot of things. To me, that Cracker Barrel sitting in Chesapeake should have been sitting at Victory Crossing. So we need to get aggressive. The next hire on that economic development director needs to be a good salesperson, needs to be somebody who's aggressive, somebody who will get out and beat the street and meet these people who are making the decisions. And let's get a delegation.
Sorry, you're out of time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. All eyes have been on the situation in Ferguson, Missouri, and racial tensions continue to run high. Racial tension is not new to Portsmouth or any other Hampton Roads city for that matter, and in fact, there's even been racial tension among some council members. If you are elected to city council, what will you do to ensure racial harmony and avoid a Ferguson situation? And let's start with Ms. Sack.
Well, one of the things that I realized recently is being raised on the farm, I didn't know anything about racial issues back in the 50s. And when I came to Portsmouth, I saw some differences with one of my children, but I recently. And then I told my friend, I didn't know this was going on in Portsmouth. She said, I've been trying to tell you. And, but for me, I'm really grateful that I have no problem with anybody. I mean, God has given us all gifts, and what I like to do is discover what a person's gifts are. That's one of my things I like to do. What is that person good at? So, you know, that's what I like. And for harmony, I'm a mediator too, so I can mediate conflict. Of course, I can cause it too.
Mr. Chair.
Sure, I can follow that. You know, I'm going to do what I've always done, and just treat everybody the way I want to be treated. I respect the differences. I think our differences are what make us a complete council. We come from different aspects, different cultural, different places in life. So we bring all that together and put together to form a cohesive team. As one of my mentors used to also say, he had several children. He said you have to love your other children too, which means you have to serve everybody. You know, as far as Ferguson goes, Ferguson is I think 66% African American, but their leadership and their police force doesn't look like that. Here in Portsmouth, you know, we are a little over 50% African American, but our leadership and our council reflects our community. So I think we're way ahead of Ferguson, and should not be compared to them because we have no issues that compare to what's going on there, and I hope we never do. And how do we keep them doing that? By keep open communication, keep talking to each other. My council person, my council colleagues here today to support me. She doesn't look like me, but she support me because we work well together because we respect each other's differences. That's what we got to continue to do in Portsmouth and stay that way. Thank you.
Mr. Moody.
You know, we all breathe the same air. We all have the same bills that we have to pay. The bills vary, the amounts vary. Most of us, at some point in our lives, have had to get up and go to work. We all bleed. Anybody that's been in the service know that our blood is red. So there's a lot more commonality than differences. And I agree, communication is important. I don't know a lot about Ferguson. I do know when I saw it on the news, it reminded me of pictures when I was a teenager. I don't like it. I don't know all the specifics. I will say it kind of goes back to education and to jobs. I don't think educated people riot in the street and tear up their own community. That's always a puzzle to me. And I don't think people who get up and go to work in the morning really have time for those things. Is Portsmouth a perfect city as far as racial harmony? I don't think anything is perfect. I think there's always improvement. In fact, a while back, I suggested that we reactivate civil service, not civil service, diversity commission, so we could, discuss those things because I think communication is important. I'm kind of proud of Portsmouth in the fact that we have stayed away from that sort of thing. And I think our leadership and most of our government agencies, our police department, fire department, reflect who we are, and that's a diverse city. And I'm proud of being a diverse city. I think we need more bald-headed people in this city. We're doing all right.
We're out of time. Thank you, sir. Dr. Whitaker.
The issue with the racial tension that we see in Ferguson is not an isolated situation. Portsmouth is not that far removed as some may think it is. I think whenever you do not see the humanity of persons, that you will not truly appreciate who they fully are. I think that addressing the race issue we have to be honest about where we stand. I don't see how anyone in Portsmouth can say that there aren't issues, considering 1% of minorities are getting contracts. When we look at the fact that who's in control economically, bankers, we can't just excuse these things as being par for the course. And the issue of education, it's not enough just to be educated, you have to have a value system. And I think that's what, when we elect persons to council, because some very educated people have made some very foolish decisions in this country, going to war. We've seen foreclosures and record numbers in the African American community. And so we can't just close our eyes and try to say that everything is good because people are suffering. In Portsmouth, you have a very high level of poverty that we have to deal with, that we can't excuse that by just saying that people have to work harder. But we have to put in place structures to make sure that those persons get to the levels where they're trying to get. So the way to deal with the issue is to address the issue and not to try to cover it up and camouflage it and just hug everybody. Because after we hug, we'll still be poor.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, ma'am. I'll go back to my history here in the city of Portsmouth, and I'll reflect on that. I believe Mr. Cherry did say it right when he said, treat everyone as you'd like to be treated. That goes back to what my parents taught me when I was a kid. I've had a lot of experience here in the city of Portsmouth. Like I said, I did go to Northam High School. I went there by choice. I'm proud that I went there, and I enjoyed attending that school. Since I have been working public safety in Portsmouth, I did 3 years in the jail, housing inmates, 12 years I spent on the police department, and the 5 in the fire department. I have knocked on doors in every neighborhood in this city, including neighborhoods that are no longer in existence. On these calls, I treat everyone the same. Doesn't matter if I was there to help them as a police officer. Doesn't matter if I was there on the ambulance to take that person to the hospital. That person is a patient. Doesn't matter who they are, what their socioeconomic situation is, or what neighborhood it is. It was my duty to go there and help, and I didn't look at it that way. A lot of this goes into education. People that think these ways, you know, they're not using their brain, for lack of better terms. I've attended schools. I have attended cultural diversity schools. I've taught police departments. I still teach in the police academy. We teach cultural diversity classes, and we have taught through the years. You know, we try to be sensitive to complaints that come in, but I think it's still education for people that try to segregate and isolate people. It's lack of education on their part. So I think we just need to work together, as I have done for so many years in this city, with all groups in the area, and I think we will turn out just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Please name a critical issue that you think City Council may face in 2015, and if you are elected, how would you approach the issue and how would you solve it? Do I need to read the question once again? Got it. Once again? Okay. Please name a critical issue that you think City Council may face in 2015, and if you are elected, how would you approach the issue and how would you solve it? And let's start with you, Mr. Cherry.
I think of a few of them. Let's start with infrastructure. You know, we have an aging church on the bridge that we got to replace. When I joined council, the price tag was $20 million. As of last week, it was $29 million. You know, this Councilwoman Simpson and I spent part of last Friday with the governor, and he explained to us that we had a $2.4 billion shortfall. And the changes they had to make, the cuts they had to make. But part of what was cut, the money for the church and bridge. But we got to figure out how to do that, because that bridge is the main corridor for us, especially with the tolls and more people using it every day. We have a port that every other week they're talking about the ownership and who's going to manage it, who's going to run it, who's going to own it. We got to make sure it stays taxable. If it doesn't, it's $7 billion that we'll lose a year in taxable income. We got no printing presses in Portsmouth or in Virginia. All our funds come from us, the citizens, the taxpayers. So those are things that, as a council person, we got to look out for. So what we're doing, we were in Richmond talking about those things, trying to make sure our legislators understand
and then work with them, work with us to make sure the port stays taxable. Make sure we can apply for some grants if they can't have the money, and that we can get the proper financing to fix the bridge to make sure our citizens are safe. This is two of the main things that we as a council have to face next year. I could go on.
You're out of time, though. Thank you. Mr. Clark.
Yes, one of the issues that I believe that is going to be critical is what we're speaking about, that he was just speaking of about the ports. What started as the ATM terminals out in Churchill was going to bring us a very significant tax base, and as they start talking about putting it as far as Port of Virginia, if it becomes them, that cuts us off from taxes just as the old Portsmouth Marine terminals that are located in Port Norfolk have done for years. Our problem is we have a lot of land in Portsmouth that is not taxable. Portsmouth Naval Hospital, Norfolk Naval Shipyard. These terminals, Portsmouth Marine terminals, they have started exporting Chrysler products out of that port again, but we're not receiving revenue from this. We need to ensure this from the revenue ATM terminals. I believe the estimate was when ATM terminals finally gets at 100%, it's going to affect traffic and truck and Connex boxes and intermodal transportation for approximately a 50-mile radius. That's why they're even looking at doing the expansion and the bypass on Route 460. But all of these trucks that are going to be doing that are going to be coming right out of 164 in Churchill, and some of them are coming back over to PMT in Portsmouth and Port Norfolk area. These trucks are very heavy. We have had motor carrier teams in the city in the past that ensure the safety of these vehicles because they do pose a threat to other motorists in the city as well as the damage it does to our roadways. So we have to figure out how we're going to pay to repair these roadways that these trucks are causing damage to, and we're not getting taxes from this terminal. So that's something we really need to look at and get invested in so it doesn't slip us by like they got us with the Jordan Bridge. Thank you.
Mr. Moody.
Actually, we just dodged the bullet on APM terminals, and it was sold to a private entity. So if it had been sold, or the state would have taken it over, we would have lost approximately $6 million, which could be critical, obviously, to a fiscally strapped city like Portsmouth continues to be, because about 53% of our property is off the tax rolls with federal, state, and municipal government. I would say the most critical issue, or two of the most, one is fiscal, due to state cutbacks. It looks like Virginia usually performs better than the national trend. If you've been reading the latest reports, we're performing under the national trend in jobs, tax revenue, mostly due to defense cutbacks. So that is alarming. When the state suffers, obviously that's passed down to the municipalities. I will say this, if state revenue is cut, the load on our taxpayers is already too heavy. We cannot go up on the real estate tax rate. To me, that's not an option. We need to look at cutting expenses and operating a more efficient government before we just arbitrarily pass it on to the taxpayers. The other problem is school is out now, things are quiet. We need to work on fostering a better rapport with our school board. I've advocated doing a joint retreat. Meeting once a quarter is not enough. We need to meet more frequently. We need to collaborate on things, and we need to get on that immediately as the new school board, new superintendent come in to office, so we can smooth this out and operate as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sy.
What we're dealing with right now is the transportation issue. The General Assembly created the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. And the meetings are being created right now. They're talking about 9 projects they want to build. And that's a real severe issue right now with transportation. Now, the approach and how to solve it, that's what we're working on right now. There's a team of us, some of us in Portsmouth, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach are going to these meetings, trying to have a voice in what's happening. But what's happening is our voices aren't being heard. And that's where you're going to have a problem. If the citizens' voices were heard, we could come together and solve it. But right now, they're blowing us off. We're speaking to the committee. Thursday is going to be their retreat, and some of us are going to speak again to try to help solve the problem. Petersburg built a airplane parts factory, and they want to come down 460 to come to our port. And that's going to cause the people in this area issue because they want to widen 460. So transportation is a problem. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. Whitaker.
A critical issue that is facing the city is leadership. And as a council person, I believe that we are part of a council manager system that our citizens are aware of. Council meets a couple of times a month, but we have persons who serve on a daily basis. And we have to make sure that we are putting competent leadership in place, because the council that you appoint or elect will not be running the finances, the economic development. We will hire people that will handle those day-to-day chores. If we do not have competent leadership in place, then you will see the type of issues that have been in the media with the tension between the school board and city council, which was totally unnecessary. If we have competent leadership in place, they will know how to put together the necessary recommendations that the council will have to vote on to move the city forward. And so let's not be misinformed. We as a council have to place in competent leadership that will move the city in the direction that it needs to go to address the issues that have just been discussed, the tax, the tolls, the education. So I think that's going to be a critical issue that has to be addressed, the leadership of the city.
Thank you. Last question from me, and then we will go to our audience questions. The spotlight is always on the person running for office, but I want to turn the table a bit. As a candidate, what would you like your constituents to do to make you a more effective leader? And let's start again with you, Dr. Whitaker.
I think that effective leadership can occur when citizens hold their leadership accountable. Too many times we come before the public with platforms, with things that we're going to do, things that we're going to support. I think that over the past 12 years, I've heard just about every council person say that they're for education. But when it comes to supporting education and putting the dollars there, that did not occur until we had to have our teachers, employees come down before city council and demand that council fund us. That should have never occurred. And so I think that the constituents, the citizens need to hold us accountable. When we come before you and say education is a priority, then it should not be an issue with funding education. When we come before you and say that we are for fairness and economic development, it should not take the time that it has taken for the city to do a disparity study, to put in place equity measures. If we truly believe in that, hold us accountable. And let's not just allow us to come before you every 4 years in these forums saying the same old thing and doing the same old thing. But hold us accountable. Red, yellow, black, or white. Hold us accountable. And I think that when we do that, that will demand effective leadership, because we will not take you for granted.
Ms. Side.
I had a question the other day about an issue issue. And I said, well, I have to do some research on it. And once I get the paperwork and the research, I'd like for you to help me look through it to make sure that I understand what you need or what you're talking about. So that's mainly what I need from constituents, is that if you have a conversation with me and you want me to help identify some problems and how to solve it, be available to me to work with me so you'll be part of the conversation. So that's what I'd like to see.
Okay, Mr. Moody.
I always say, don't elect me and send me to council, come with me to council. And by that, I don't necessarily mean you got to come to all the meetings. I mean, keep in touch. I think it's important that you elect people who will return calls, that will listen to what you had to say, listen to your input. You know, we're a relatively small city, so having a conversation and listening, I listen a whole lot better than I make speeches and talk, and any of you who've known me for any length of time probably know that. I love to listen. I love to get input before I make a decision from citizens. Just because you're elected to council doesn't mean all of a sudden you've been anointed with the best ideas in the land. Many suggestions and ideas, most of them in fact have come from our citizens themselves. But once again, you have to listen, you have to go forward with what they say, what they suggest, or give them a reason, a valid reason why we can't do something, because obviously we cannot please everybody and do everything that's suggested, but we can always listen. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Thank you.
Mr. Clark. The question is, the spotlight is always on the person running for office, but I want to turn the table a bit. As the candidate, what would you like your constituents to do to make you a more effective representative?
What I would like to do is be in partnerships with the community and the people to hold me to that. Myself and anybody else that would be or will be elected that will serve on council should be held accountable to the citizens that put them into office. You're put there by the citizens, and the point is to do the work for the citizens, but you have to hear their voice. So I think it would be important to put the spotlight on everybody. Obviously, the people that are here tonight are very valued to the city, and they're here because they're interested and they're dedicated to this city, or they wouldn't be here tonight. So I will put the spotlight on everybody else to hold me accountable, have me come to your meetings, and my commitment to everybody here would be, I will come to your civic league meetings or any other type of meetings you have to hear your voice, not just during election time. I think that's something that should be ongoing the entire time that an individual is sitting on council. It should not just be, I want to talk to you every 4 years because I need your support. I think it should be ongoing the entire time. So I would like to put the spotlight on everyone here to hold me to that. Invite me to your meetings. Invite me. I will gladly be there. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like for the citizens to continue what they've been doing for the last 4 years, sharing their concerns, sharing their hopes, sharing their dreams, and holding them accountable for their actions. You know, I talk to citizens all the time. The idea to purchase the land for the 30 acres for the recreation center, that was given to me by Mr. Leslie Harris, who was in the back. I saw him walking around. Well, I didn't come up with it. He brought it to me. I took it to my colleagues. They bought in, and that's going to happen. Continue the communication. Continue to talk. You know, the idea for 3% raise for employees instead of 2 came from the employees, came from the citizens. They wanted us to reward them for the work they do. We got it, and when we can, we implement what the citizens are bringing to us. So keep talking to us, keep nice communication open. I respond to all phone calls, emails. My personal people have my personal cell, not my city cell. They have my personal cell because I want to make sure that I hear your concerns and I can address it at any time, any place. I'm a 7-day-a-week council person, and I'll continue to do that for you. just got reelected on November 4th.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's our first round of questions. Let's give our candidates a round of applause. Ladies, if you'd like to take a drink of water and get ready for round 2. We have a lot of questions from the audience, and I'm going to try to get to as many of them as time permits. The first question, and this question, I have no less than 6 cards asking the exact same question, which is, what would you do to repair and work with the school board, and what are you going to do to ensure proper funding of the school board? Let's start with Ms. Simon. You said it wrong. Ms. Simon.
Well, I've already been asked to look into that issue. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the documentation that I want to look at the records. So that's the first thing I want to do is get the budget. I want to see all the line items and the number of employees in each of the departments. So that's what I started working on just recently. So I'm looking to see how I can get a FOIA to get all that information. And the person that I mentioned earlier, I was asking her if she could help me go through it to make sure that everything was according, that's accurate. And also, I don't have to be elected to do it. I can do it right now. So anybody in the audience wants to be part of that team looking through it and assessing, I'll be glad to have anybody, because I want to know what's going on. I want the people to be paid their just salaries and their benefits, because education is really important.
Mr. Moody?
Well, one thing I mentioned earlier is the two bodies. First of all, we have to respect the fact that the school board is their own elected entity. We got to acknowledge that. We shouldn't be dictating to them necessarily where to spend the money. They have their needs. They know their system better than the city. With that said, we both have to have a high level of trust. And in order to do that, we need to be working in a collaborative basis with each other. We need to meet as two bodies more than once a quarter or a couple times a year. I think having a joint retreat would be good. I think that very important from a perception standpoint when people talk about looking how our schools are, when they read that the school board and the city council don't get along, from that point we've probably lost them. So we really need to work very, very hard in repairing that relationship. And I think this coming year will be a good opportunity to do that. I think each respective body needs to make sure they're asking their superintendent, and council is asking their city manager tough questions to get down to the meat of the matter, but also letting both of those leaders know who work for their respective bodies that we expect you to have a good rapport with each other, and we expect that you work together. And also on our vision statement it says education is council's #1 priority. We need to make sure when the city manager is putting together a budget that he doesn't lose sight of that. So I think if we do those things, we can work good together.
Dr. Whitaker.
The way that I would ensure that education always remains a top priority in funding is that I will always remain true to historically who I am. I think that a lot of times we get in positions and we forget where we've come from, and we forget the struggles that got us to where we are. And I think that if we're true to our history and we look at the fact that persons were denied educations, that persons died to get an education, and the fact that we are here now in a position to help uplift the lives of others, then when we keep that mindset, then we will recognize that we need to put as much resources into education, particularly when we recognize that we are in a city that has a very high level of free and reduced lunch. And we have to make sure that we have strong programs and strong educational systems. So I think staying true to who I am will always keep me in the mindset of recognizing that education is a priority, especially considering how much education has benefited me and allowed me to reach some of the goals that I had in mind as a little boy. My mother was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher, my grandfather couldn't read or write, but he valued education. And so that's something that I always keep in my mind, and I will always fight and push for education because it is truly an equalizer.
Thank you. Mr. Cherry, please.
Could you read that question again?
It's a combo of how would you prepare and work with the school board, and what would you do to ensure proper funding of our school division?
And I thought that's what it was. Well, you know, I've been doing what to prepare our relationship with the school board. You know, most of life is about relationships. You know, and we allow some of our relationships to be damaged with what was going on with funding the school board. I've spoken with the school board members. We know where we are now. We're in a much better place. I've been endorsed by Ms. Costello Williams because we understand that what was going on is bigger than us. It was truly about the children. Our funding issues were about right, wrong, rules and regulations, and facts and law. Once we got past that, we made a relationship, and we go forward from here. Now, it is true that we allow our two appointees to help drive the wedges between us. We as two elected bodies have to take care of that because they do report to us and make sure that we don't allow them to put things in front of us that's going to cause us to have discord. So at this point on, I think it's just about dialogue, keeping what's truly important first, our kids. You know, my sister sitting back in the back there and watching, she's a 35-year veteran of the Portsmouth school system. My daughter's a 2010 graduate of Churchill High School undergraduate, and 2014 graduate of North Carolina State University. Soon come out because of what she learned in the Portsmouth school system. So our system produces great kids. Now, we have to fully fund the needs of the school system, which may not always match the request. And as council person, we have to balance the many needs of the city. So we have to work with the school board to understand we can't do something this year, maybe we'll do it next year, but when we get there, we make sure that each year our kids have the necessities to do what they have to do to succeed. That's why we gave the extra $9.4 million this year. And we'll continue to do that in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, I would like to say a lot of it goes back to the city of Portsmouth. We have always wanted to have a partnership with our citizens. We want people to be vested, partnerships with the businesses and everything else. We need to lead by example. We need to have that partnership between city council and the school board. And it is communication that needs to be done between the two groups. My understanding is now there's only one meeting a year between these two groups. That obviously is not enough to get the proper information between the two boards. So there should be at least a meeting every quarter to discuss these issues. Every year it's a mad rush become March, April. Everybody wants to run the city council because they know the new budget's being worked on because it's going to take place July the 1st. These things should be thought about all year. You don't wait till the last minute and start dividing up where the money goes, who goes, because obviously the city can't pay for everything every year. So I think it leads to a lot. It has to be communication and partnership between the two, and we need to lead by example. As far as the funding, you know, the educators have the expertise in this area in the school board, so we have to listen to their experience and what they know and make judgments based on information we get from them. Because obviously I am not an educator, but I have, like I said, I worked as a school resource officer in a middle school for 4 years. So that gave me some insight inside of the school that I had never understood how things actually work in there. As being a student, you don't see behind the scenes what the struggles the teachers and administrations go through. So, like I said, I've done it for 4 years, so at least I have a glimpse. Like I said, not an educator, but I do have a glimpse inside of that system. Thank you.
Okay. The next question, the jail sits on valuable waterfront property. What's your stance on relocating the jail or the inmates? Let's start with you, Mr. Moody.
Well, if you took a poll in the city, I'm sure everybody would say the jail shouldn't be on the waterfront. Some say it should have never been built on the waterfront, but you got to, if you check history, the waterfront at that time, it was built under President Nixon's urban renewal project at little or no cost to the city, so that's why it ended up on the waterfront, but that was years ago. What we're doing on the waterfront, we're looking for a master developer that can redevelop our waterfront. Now, with that said, the jail is a costly product. Give you an example. The regional jail, and that's not the panacea. They went up $10 per diem, which equates about to a $900,000 increase in housing inmates at the regional jail. So that's costly as well. I'm not about putting our sheriff out of business. I am about getting the jail off the waterfront when we can afford it. It's been estimated that the demolition cost of that would be over $1 million just to take it down because it's a fortified facility. The jail at one time was housing 600 inmates. I think it's down to 200 and some odd inmates at this time. And it continues to get high marks. So just getting it off the waterfront with no plan is not acceptable, not if it's going to cost the taxpayers. We got a courthouse that cost $78 million. It's estimated a new jail would cost in the neighborhood of $50-some million. Right now we can't afford that, so we have to face reality. Do I want to get it off of there? Absolutely. Will I live long enough to get it off of there? More than likely not.
Mr. Clark?
The issue with the jail has always been a concern about the location of where it is on the waterfront. I believe it was built in 1969. So the jail and the old court complex and I are the same age. I hope I'm not in bad shape as the jail is. But it's something that needs to be addressed. That's where I started working at in 1988. I worked in that jail for 3 years. There has been some changes and upgrades since then. When I worked there, those 3 years, there was no air conditioning, and inmates were still allowed to smoke in the jail back then. It was bad working conditions, to say the least. The issue with whether building another jail or talking about transferring inmates, I know there's been some consideration looking at putting them in the Hampton Roads Regional Jail. There are several issues that go with that. As recent as last year, I was still working for the Sheriff's Department here in Portsmouth, and it was my job. I was in charge of transportation for transporting all the inmates from the jail on Water Street to the courthouse every morning. We had 2 vans and 4 deputies to accomplish this. Some days we had in excess of 40 inmates that we had to move to the new complex. The new complex has 3 side courts, and none of them connect. So if you have an inmate that has more than 1 court, they have to be driven around the parking lot to multiple garages to get them to the courts that they need to be in. We still made that happen. When the judges called me an inmate from the jail, we would call the jail, and we would have that inmate approximately 15 minutes. If the regional jail takes over these inmates, that is not going to happen. It's not, we don't have reliable transportation from them, so that would be an issue. I do believe the jail needs to go, but I think building a new jail is probably the proper thing to do. And the other thing is that empty circuit court, juvenile court, and soon-to-be empty police department, you cannot tear those down without tearing the jail down because the infrastructure is all the same, electrical, plumbing, and everything, so it has to go at once. Thank you.
Ms. Simon?
This is a very difficult situation because I think the citizens need to be involved in the planning of this because it's been an issue for many years. And since I'm kind of new at this court issue. I think you need all kinds of input to see what to do, because you've got a working river. You know, the shipyards are over there, and they had tugboats going up with supplies or whatever, you know, up and down that river. So, I mean, if you're going to ask me personally, I say no. But this is not my personal question. This is what the citizens come up with, the design, the cost, the needs. So it's a community effort on this one. So it's a hard question to answer without the involvement of everybody in the city.
Mr. Clark? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Moving to jail is it's going to eventually have to happen. Unlike Mr. Moody, I plan on being around to see it happen. We have one of the prettiest stretches of waterfront property from the old Holiday Inn site to the pavilion, anywhere in Virginia, and probably the East Coast. But I think in order to do this right, it's going to come down to dollars and cents, and what makes more sense financially. If we're going to pay $4, $5, $6 million a year to the regional jail forever, we can build our own jail with that same money and keep all of those deputies and families employed and living in the city of Portsmouth. Now, we won't be able to do anything with that property as a whole until the jail is moved. And when that master developer comes along, and I hope it's soon, we have to make some tough decisions. There's a sharing process with the state, which may or may not materialize with what they have going on. So there's all the things council have to consider, which is why it's important that you have people who understand fiscal responsibility and can make wise decisions. You won't have to come out of your pocket with as much to make these things happen. Personally, that's what I do every day. I manage the budgets for 42 clinics on a daily basis, so I make tough decisions about man every day. We can make this happen with the proper planning and the proper participation from all the entities. Mr. Marvin's office, but when I'm in his office much longer, will have to be involved. The sheriff has got to have a seat at the table. We cannot do it in isolation. So we as council people don't know anything about running the jail. But that's what he's paid for. So just like we talk about collaboration with the school board and talking to them, but sit down with the sheriff and all the other entities and map this thing out.
Sorry, we're out of time. Mr. Whitaker.
I think that fundamentally, when we look at the fact that the city is very limited in its tax base, that it would only make sense that when you look at your property that has prime value, that you would want to get as much return on that property as possible. And so I think that there does need to be some serious consideration at moving the jail off the waterfront and looking to develop that property in a way that it will bring and provide a revenue stream to the city. It may have to cost, and I think anytime you do things, there's a cost. And so that's just something that we're going to have to do because of some decisions that were made back in 1969 that may not have been in the best interest of what the city's progress would be. And so I'm one that would like to critically look at that issue with the fundamental basis that you would want your prime property generating revenue.
Thank you. Virginia is facing a possible $2 billion shortfall. It may mean a shortfall in the allotment of money for Portsmouth. Where will you make the cuts or recommend the cuts come from to balance the budget? And let's start with you, Mr. Cherry.
You know, that's why if you all have watched the last few work sessions, I've been very cautious about going into our undesignated fund balance. Because most of us knew that this day was coming. I'm talking to legislators on a regular basis. So we have have some reserves. Usually, the easy place to make cuts is, the easy place to go is always personnel, which we don't want to do. If we have vacant positions, we won't be able to fill them, which means those who are working now are going to have to work a little harder, because they're going to make it for the person who's not there beside them, which is why we insist on giving them 3% raises this year. You have to look at each department. There's some fraud, not fraud, but some waste in each department, I'm sure. Some things we can do better, things we do more efficiently. We have to start with the efficiency study to see where we can make cuts without hurting people and families. And once we do that, then we'll combine some things. When we merge with purchasing, with the school board, when we combine some departments, we can save some money. And that will help us offset some of these cuts that are coming from the state. Because we know for the next 2 years, it's going to be $300 million 1 year plus, and $500 plus million the next year. And each city in Virginia, to include Portsmouth, is going to share in that. So once we get the exact numbers, we'll have to take a serious look at what we got, do our efficiency studies, and make smart decisions.
Thank you. Dr. Whitaker?
It would be premature to try to discuss tonight where cuts would come from as a person who has not reviewed any type of analysis. I think that when you put persons on a council, any governing body, you always want to put persons who are critical thinkers that know how to use data and reach conclusions. And so I think for any of us to try to sit here and balance the budget and to try to suggest cuts without taking some type of scientific approach and just coming anecdotally off the top of our heads, I don't think that would be a wise thing to do. But I think the citizens can be assured that as someone who would have to make those type of decisions, that it would be done with critical thinking and also with the best interests of the citizens and not any type of personal benefit or trying to adhere to some segment of the community, that we would try to do what would be in the best interest of the citizens of Portsmouth.
Mr. Clark?
We're already at a 5% under our position with our employees in the city. So I would not want to cut employees because we're already underneath the maximum complement that we would need for police officers and firefighters and other positions in the city. So we do not want to cut off any kind of safety services that are provided to the citizens. But I think one thing we need to look at is start doing some creative saving as opposed to creative spending that has gone on through the years. I think we just need to watch and be very careful what money is spent for. One thing that we could look at in cutting, which would not be cutting salaries or individuals, we need to address and look at some of the vehicles within the city. Possibly some of the larger vehicles, there's other options now, leasing vehicles as opposed to purchasing vehicles, and possibly keeping some of these vehicles on the roads longer and doing other types of maintenance as opposed to purchasing new vehicles. Some of these prices, fire engines, waste vehicles, they're astronomical prices for these vehicles. Just like now, if you go look at a base vehicle at a dealership now, you're probably looking at $40,000 minimum just to get a vehicle. And you start talking about these large trucks, excess of $500,000 for one of these vehicles. We need to start looking at ways for maintenance and making these vehicles last longer and working for us. That way we can maintain the services to the citizens without cutting our manpower. Thank you.
Ms. South?
I also agree with Mr. Whitaker. We need to be forward-thinking right now, having conversations and communication. That is so important, is to be communicating with all different areas of the city, seeing where things are being wasteful, seeing resources that can be helpful to maintain our standard of living and our values. We have many churches in the city, feel like that the churches are an excellent resource to help maintain the values and the services we might need. But it's a job, a day-by-day job to talk with people, seeing how things are going, and that way you can determine where is the problem arising, and then work on that instead of making a overall statement on where to cut. Talk with people. They can tell you what they need, and we can do something about it.
Hey, Mr. Mooney.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it working? Working?
Yes. Pass over the other one. Please.
Well, for one thing, the state's fiscal condition can turn around just as quickly as it just recently turned around. What was it, last year we were talking about a surplus, now they're talking about a deficit, but you do have to have a plan. And I think we should be preparing for that. Unfunded or funded unfilled positions is always one avenue. I do not favor cutting our police, fire service, EMS service. Those are critical services to our citizens. What I would not do is put the burden of a tax increase on our citizens without overturning every rock within city government and see where we can save some money. Consolidation, I know Mr. Rowe and with some cooperation with the school board, Dr. Stuckwish, we've been exploring some consolidation that could possibly save some money. If it works and is still efficient and saves money for that, I think on a regional basis, we need to communicate with each other and send a strong message to Richmond that we want our share. You know, Portsmouth has been penalized long enough with having 53% of our property off the tax rolls. So we need to carry that, and I'm confident our delegation will do that, we are already suffering from a bad tunnel deal, and to send down a budget that deprives us of even more $1 million is just not acceptable. So I say let's fight like heck in Richmond, but let's also prepare to be able to cut, hopefully through attrition within employees.
Thank you, sir.
I recommend it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You get an opportunity to answer later. Okay, the next question. I'm trying to get in as many questions as we can before the time is up. The next question is, if elected to City Council, what are your ideas on helping to make sure that the Old Town Business District isn't devastated by the tunnel tolls? And let's start with Mr. Clark. Sorry, you guys.
That's all right. Basically goes back to what I had said before as far as, marketing and letting people know what we have. The Old Town and the businesses, the High Street corridor. It's just trying to get people back there. I remember going there as a kid, when you had Smith & Welton and when Roger Brown's was still Woolworths. So I've been going there for years, and before that, my mother grew up here, and she can tell me stuff that was way before my time. But it's trying to get marketing these things and marketing things as a package deal and get people to come here and visit. We have the Renaissance here, which is a great hotel in downtown Portsmouth. I just hosted the Virginia Professional Firefighters Conference in May at that location. And we also were promoting for all the firefighters that were in town from across the state. We gave them a list and a map and showed them where the restaurants and everything were on High Street, so they would go out and see our businesses and everything like that. And we invited their families because we held it the week prior to Memorial Day weekend. So if they wanted to attend the conference and bring their family, they could stay for the weekend after the conference was over and enjoy some of the things. We told them about the Sports Hall of Fame, the Children's Museum. So a lot of it is marketing to get it out to the public and let them know it's a package deal so they will come visit. We want these people to come to the city and spend their tax dollars, because the more that they come and spend, the less that we have to pay out of our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wood.
First of all, we have to remember that it's not what one council person can do, because we have to vote as a group for anything to be done. It takes the majority vote. However, one thing that I think the citizens should hold us accountable to, as far as now we have the toll issue. Once again, we have to make sure that we have competent leadership in place that knows how to address these changing issues. It's not going to be one council person or two that will decide that issue. That's going to be based on the competency of the leadership that we're going to have in place as the council directs managers to go forward with addressing those type of issues. So let's not be misguided in thinking that what would one council person do, because it's going to take more than one as we would vote on those issues. But I would want to ensure that we have competent leadership in place that knows how to address the changing issues in our city.
All right, Mr. Chair.
First, the tolls will continue to increase until 2017, and the governor has said he's going to continue to try to do something to help us. First, we got to hold him to that and talk about legislators and see if we can do anything about it. But if we can, we got to make Portsmouth a destination. Give people a reason to come here. Once they get here, they will like it. New housing that we're building downtown, it's going to help a lot, because those people are going to be available to shop and spend their money right here in the city of Portsmouth, and not going to want to pay $2 to go to Norfolk to spend their money. So we're already working on that. And we did this, we have this in mind. The current council has this in mind, and that's why we work so hard and push so hard to get these cases built, have them ready, so when those people start moving here and want to stay here in 2017, we have the affordable housing stock that they need. We got to continue to tell our story. We got to let them know what the great things we have downtown. We have a great tourism museum, as we said. We have a sports hall of fame. We have great restaurants. We have this new campaign going on there called You Get More in Portsmouth. But you know, the problem with it right now is I don't think we're reaching anybody outside of Portsmouth, Suffolk, Chesapeake. We got to get it across the water. We got to get it to Peninsula. We got to get it to Winsboro. We got to get it to all those other places so they can find out what we have in Portsmouth. We can get them here every weekend. They can stop here on the way to the beach. They can stop here on the way back. They can live here and go to the stay here and go to the beach. When we start getting those things in place, I think we'll be fine. And our businesses downtown, combined with some of the economic things that we're trying to do to help them out, should be fine.
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Thank you. You know, when you're dealt a bad hand like we were dealt with the tunnel, you have to change your strategy. I think the growth is going to come from the west, and I think that's where we need to focus our marketing. Suffolk, look at Harborview, how Suffolk has grown. They have a lot of green space, which is more efficient for businesses to grow. We have to start marketing to those areas, getting those people, telling them what Portsmouth is all about, and that's a huge potential market for us. The other thing that we need to keep our minds on and our eyes on is high-speed rail. We need a high-speed rail connection in Bowers Hill. We cannot end up like 95 did the whole region and be a cul-de-sac through north to south. We need that high-speed rail. Unfortunately, I don't see a lot of conversation. I know things are happening. I think council and management needs to keep abreast. We need to turn the wick up on that to make sure we have the correct lobbying effort, because we'll benefit from that in Portsmouth. I think we have a diamond in the rough with Old Town. I think our marketing today is low-key. You know, when times get tough, you increase your marketing, you increase your advertising, you don't cut back. Well, times are a little tough now with the tolls, so we need to amp that up. We hired a director of tourism. I think that's a step. We need to make sure we're giving the tools to work with. But I think our future is to the west, to the north, the peninsula, Suffolk, Isle of Wight County, Franklin, and let's get some of those people to come to Portsmouth. They don't have to pay a toll to get here.
We're out of time. Thank you, sir. Ms.
How to get business downtown because of the tolls?
Yes.
Well, I know the Economic Development Department and Economic Development Authority is really focusing on how to improve the downtown, Old Town Business District. So I know they're doing that. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. This will be the last question before it will be time for your closing statements. And this question reads, what do you plan to do about the, quote, ditch problem within the entire city and the streets that flood every time it rains? And let's start with Dr. Whitaker.
I'm a product of a ditch community. And that issue was addressed over a number of years. Once again, I think that we have to take into account what the resources are that we have to address those issues. And if we're going to direct our managers to come back with recommendations for taking care of those issues, and we have to look critically at it and weigh it in balance with all of the other issues, and we have to see if that's something that's going to be addressed. But once again, I think that we all know that there are a number of issues that face the community. What I think you always want in your leadership, once again, are persons who you know will make critical decisions, who have a value system consistent with uplifting the total community, and therefore you know that those persons will make the right decisions in tough times. And so I think that's what you're looking for in persons when you're looking to put them on council. Can they make the right decisions given the information that will help the community?
Thank you. Mr. Moody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we've had a lot of studies. I think the most recent study said the fix for that is over $500 million to fix our flooding problems. I think it's awful that when you pay your real estate taxes and have to take your shoes off to wade to your house. I can remember over in Ebony Heights, a Navy couple unknowingly bought a home over there. They didn't realize it at the time, but they ended up having waterfront property, and they didn't want it because they had to wade to their home. So those situations are awful. They're also very costly to fix. Every budget year, I said, we need to put money into fixing it. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. Can't fix it all at one time. But we need to prioritize it. We probably need to convene a citizens group again, because that study is probably about 8 years old now. And we need to prioritize what needs to be fixed and tackle it. Summit Avenue downtown had a problem. A lady used to come to council quite frequently in the early days, and we finally had enough money to fix that problem. So it is fixable to a point. It's important to realize that two things. We're almost at sea level, and the land is sinking. So we're facing a double whammy. You can put all the pipes you want in a ditch, but when it rains, the water has to go somewhere, and if it's going to the river, that ditch is going to still be full. But we have a plan. We just need to start putting some money in it, more money than what we have put in it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's been said, some things have been done. It's done in Capital Manor, some other communities. If you ride down High Street and you look at the former Zion Baptist Church property. You see a lot of equipment over there. Well, those people are working on our drainage problem. And they're going to be here for a long time doing it. It's going to take a while. Some of these pipes we have in the city are 100 years old. Things have changed a lot since then. They can't handle the capacity of water that we get when we have these hard rains. So we're replacing it. And as it's been said, estimates have been between $500 million to $1 billion. Well, you know we don't have that kind of money in Portsmouth to put out at one time. But we'll tackle that. We're starting it. And as you see the work going on, we'll continue to do it. It's going to take a while. They didn't get that way overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But we do have a plan, and we are working the plan. We just extended, I just happen to know for a fact, that we just extended the contract with people who are working down there to stay on that site, at the old Zion Baptist Church site, for another year. Because it's going to take them much longer to finish the quadrant that they were working in downtown. Why are we working down there? That's where economic development starts. People don't want to come and build their business, and they got to open the door every day, every time it rains, and it's flooded. So we're going to start there so we can get the monies we need to do all these other things we talked about tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Sy?
If the ditch problem is really a severe problem, that needs to be looked into right away to see how you can take care of it. I mean, you look at the priority. If it's really bad, it needs to be looked into and taken care of. But there is a plan for the stormwater and also the other water going on now in the city. So I do see that working. But if there's a particular ditch problem, the ditch people need to come out and look at it and explain to the person what's going on and how they can be helped. I mean, just because they got a ditch problem, they can't do anything. They need to talk to the person and explain things. Just don't ignore them.
Thank you. Mr. Barker.
This has been a serious issue. I remember playing in the floodwaters on Chicago Avenue, not because of kids, so this has been going on for decades. I'm not an engineer, but I'm aware that due to gravity, water, and other substances roll downhill. The issue is we are at sea level, and when we have the most severe issues are going to be two situations. At high tide, when we're having a nor'easter, is when we're going to have the worst problem. The brand new courthouse, it just opened in September of 2012. The last time we had a nor'easter, there is 2 nice retention ponds that are required now for new construction. But once those retention ponds are full, the water is supposed to go out to the river. If the river's level is above the drainage pipe, the water cannot go out to the river. Therefore, the parking lot starts backing up through the drains in the center of the parking lots of the courthouse. That is our newest city building that we have, and we're having an issue there in that parking lot as well. The problem with sea level is something, it's a serious issue, but I don't know if pumps have to be involved to make this happen or something like that, because gravity-fed drainage pipes, if the water's already above that level, water levels itself. It will not go out of the pipe if water's already there. So I don't know if it has to be some kind of pipeline along with pumps to pump the water out, but that's something that needs to be addressed. And like I said, this has been going on since I was a child in this city. And, something needs to be looked at. And it might not, like I said before, not everything can be done at one time based on financial, but we need to start somewhere and continue moving forward until we can address the problem. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that ends the session for audience questions. And now we will have closing statements from each candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to wrap up and let you know why you should vote for them. And we will do it again in alphabetical order, so we're starting with Vice Mayor Paige D. Cherry.
Thank you. We want to continue the progress. That as I spoke in my opening statement about the many changes we had in the last 4 years, there's only been a couple of constants in the last 4 years, and I've been one of them. It's going to be increasingly important that we have people who are skilled in taking scarce resources and applying the critical needs to make sure all our citizens are served. It's what I do every day. It's how I make my living. We were able to fix our pension problem, get rid of Social Security offset, give the employee raises, keep the economic development flowing, and give our school board the proper funding because it made wise financial decisions. It's more important in the next 4 years than ever to have people who understand that and they can do that. If not, you're going to be taxed to death. So if you make the wrong decisions in November, you will pay for them in January. So I ask you to send me back to council so I can keep making those wise decisions for you and keep more of your money in your pocket and produce a great school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan J. Clark.
Yes, in conclusion, I would like to just say that I will promise a commitment to stay in contact with all of the citizens, not only the ones here, but everybody in the city that would like to talk to me if elected for this position. I think that's paramount to getting things taken care of, because I need to know the problems that face individuals in the city. I don't know the problems that somebody else may be having, so I think communication there is the problem to get these issues solved. The three things that I've spoken on all along, in my opinion, form a tetrahedron because they're equal, is public safety, education, and economic development. All three work in conjunction. You need all three of them for us to be successful and to move forward. Because with the public safety and education, that's what we need to attract new residents and new business here to increase our tax base and to keep the burden off of our citizens. We need new businesses. So basically, that's the three things that I stand for, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody after this is over. So I would just like to thank Dr. Melvin Mariner and everyone from the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee for inviting us here tonight. And I'd like to thank our moderator, Ms. Barbara Hambley, and of course, thank you to all the citizens that took your time to come out and listen to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. William E. Bill Moody, Jr.
Former Mayor Holly put it in proper perspective about 8 years ago, and he was always putting things in proper perspective, as we recall. In endorsing me, he said, you need people on council who are going to ask questions and ask the right questions. In order to do that, you have to do your homework. You have my commitment that I will continue to do that. I will continue to field phone calls like the one I had a few weeks ago from a citizen who the water department cut off his water at his house, had a 97-year-old woman come find out he had paid his bill, so it was cut off erroneously. I asked the question, found out that that is our policy. We'll cut anybody's water off on a Friday or a day before a holiday. I touched base with my colleagues, our city manager. Consequently, we got that policy changed. Didn't cost the city a dime. But if I didn't ask the question, didn't press it, nothing would have been done. Beyond that, I also want to fish a pier. And I want to be fishing on that pier with some of you, some of our kids. I'm passionate about what I do, in case you don't know. Sometimes I go a little over the edge of my passion, but I'd rather be that way. You had my commitment. I still have the fire in my belly. I still want to do it. I know that I'm responsive to you folks. You are my boss. That's the way I look at it. And I'm a public servant, not an elected official. So I would appreciate your vote on November the 4th. And two, thank Dr. Mariner and the steering committee and our wonderful moderator. And most of all, thank each of you in the audience for coming here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Donna Biggs Side.
Yes. Thank you, all of y'all, for participating. I would like your vote. Our city needs some leadership with some new ideas and involvement of all the citizens in the city as much as they want to give. I believe in communication number one. That we have to share with one another, listen to one another, have ideas to share, and then also action. The other thing is safety. People need to be able to live their lives in harmony and peace. And then the last is education. I believe in education, and education is a little bit of everything to learn about how to live life the way God wants us to live. And I would like for you to vote for me.
Thank you, Ms. Sy. And last but not least, Dr. Mark M. Whitaker.
Yes, to Dr. Mariner and all of the members of the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Steering Committee, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you this evening. As we know the namesake of this committee, Dr. King spoke about a beloved community where you saw an equal rising of respect of humanity. I believe that we here in Portsmouth have the opportunity to progress and do better. It's going to take leadership that you can trust, leadership that believes in fighting the good fight. And so I'm going to ask that you would reflect back on what I have stood for, not only as an elected official, but my record speaks for itself outside of the political realm. And as you put that together, you see that I've been consistent in trying to stand for not just who is right, but what is right. And so as we go to make our decisions, we hope that you will look at the consistency of our leadership and that you will recognize that we do not change hats, but we have remained consistent over the years in standing for what is right. And so I look forward to serving, if it is the desire of the citizens to serve in the capacity as a city council person. Thank you once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, the candidates for Portsmouth City Council. And before I call Dr. Mariner up for some final comments, I'd just like to say it has been my pleasure to serve as your moderator this evening, and I wish you all Godspeed and safe travel as you go home. And now, Dr. Mariner for some closing remarks.
Can we really show some applause for a very efficient and professional moderator? I really want to thank her for her time and for her professionalism, ensuring that this community, as we decide who we want to vote for and we're going to grow our city. Again, thank you for being here tonight. We hope that you would glean some information about these candidates that you can inform your several groups about who they are and things you learned tonight. We hope that you don't simply just take it in and die here, but you will also entertain additional questions from them and through them. So thank you again for being here tonight and for sharing with us in our forum. Our school board forum will be September 30th here at the Edmond Center at 7 p.m. Again, the school board forum will be September 30th at 7 p.m. I also want to thank Bishop Edmonds and the St. Mark family for opening their doors to MLK, for hosting this City Council forum tonight. I also want to thank our candidates for throwing their hats and names in the ring. Perhaps many of us have chosen to do so, but they have decided to participate in democracy. So let's give them applause for this. People who have a desire to run and to vote and to take all the criticisms that they take and, of course, all the applause. It's a very difficult task, and we do thank you for stepping forward and throwing your hat in the ring again. There are just a few comments I want to make. Again, to our forum committee, thank you so much. Those of you who served and make sure that we're here on time, started on time, ended on time. Those of you who make sure everything's in place, thank you, committee, for making sure MLK was represented, as well as our city. Second of all, I want to let you know that the overall mission of MLK sometimes is distorted because we handle some very critical issues. MLK's mission is threefold. It is education. It is to get more and everyone registered to vote. It is also to involve them in participation. So threefold: education, registration, and participation. That's the overall mission of MLK. Getting your voice heard. Getting you informed about what's happening in our community. We can't always depend upon our politicians, for they oftentimes will slant things, perhaps not intentionally, for their own good. But our job is to be impartial individuals to present to you information that will make this city a better place. Believe me, we can do it together. Doing it together means that we have to trust each other and sometimes also confront each other in a spirit of love and unity. So we pray that as we leave tonight, that even if you have different opinions, you will appreciate this gathering tonight, this forum, hosted by MLK. That you will appreciate our efforts to give you the information you need to ask the right questions, to perhaps make some statements that we need to hear about our future. It is our future, and all of us are affected one way or another. So thank you for being here tonight, for sharing with us, because we believe that this city can be the greatest city in Hampton Roads. We will make sure we give it every effort that we can. Thank you again for sharing with us tonight. Come November, you need to know a few things. The registrar of Portsmouth, they provided this information, a card. It is what you need to vote. The laws have changed. Effective July 1st, you must present one of the following forms of photo ID. Valid Virginia's driver's license, DMV issued photo identification card, or valid United States passport, valid employee photo identification card, other government issued photo ID, valid college or university student photo ID, and if you don't have any of those, then please see our city registrar, and I believe they will have other ways in providing you with the ID that you need to vote in November. Please don't wait until November 1 to see if you have valid ID. You may want to start this week to make sure you're ready for November. The last thing I want to share with you is to keep you informed. There was an election tonight across the state. The 90th District House of Delegates in Norfolk, Joe Lindsay, a Democrat, won 80% of the vote. The 30th District Senate seat, Southwest Virginia, Ben Chafin Jr., a Republican, has won that seat. In the 48th District House of Delegates, Northern Virginia, R.C. Sullivan Jr. has won that seat with 59% of vote, Democrat. And Ben Chafin again in the 30th District won by 61% of the vote, which means that the House and the Senate is Republican controlled as of tonight. So we'll look forward to seeing what the future holds for our great Commonwealth. Again, thank you for sharing with us tonight. I think that was all that I needed to say. But please, if you want to be a part of MLK, you can see one of us up front. Let me also thank our timekeepers. They were very efficient. Thank you so much for your time. And these are young adults who are actively involved in MLK. And we want to make sure we have enough diversity. Not just hearing from those of us who are seasoned in years, but also perhaps those who are coming with new insights, new methodologies, perhaps new ways in which we who are older can also listen to and embrace. And so we build this bridge of communication between those who have been and those who are coming. And so I want to make sure we recognize all of you again and Angelia for tonight. Well, saying that, it is 9:05, it's time to go. Then we'll all stand together.